What happens in relationships when mental health shows up? When you care deeply about each other, but something internal keeps getting in the way? Welcome to Evolve Your Intimacy with Dr. Stephanie. I'm Dr. Stephanie, licensed professional counselor, certified sex therapist, and clinical sexologist. And this is a special series where we're diving into the real, often misspoken ways mental health disorders impact intimate relationships. Throughout this series, we're going to break down some of the most common mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, ADHD, trauma, and so much more, and explore what they actually look like inside a relationship. This is about understanding what's really happening right beneath the surface so you can stop repeating the same cycle and start building something more intentional. So whether you're struggling or you love someone who is, this series is for you. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Evolve Your Intimacy, the podcast where we talk honestly about love, sex, connection, conflict, and the emotional patterns that shape your most intimate relationships. I'm Dr. Stephanie, licensed professional counselor, certified sex therapist, and the founder of Evolve Your Intimacy. This episode is part of our series exploring how mental health and behavioral patterns impact intimate relationships. Not to shame, not to label, but to give you language for what's happening underneath the surface. Today, we are talking about something that does not get enough attention. What happens when both partners are struggling at the same time? Not one person holding it together while the other falls apart, but both of you are carrying your own anxiety, depression, trauma, or emotional overwhelm, and trying to build a relationship inside of that. Because when both partners are struggling, the challenge isn't just individual pain, it's how those struggles start to interact. How anxiety meets withdrawal, how overwhelm meets shutdown, how two nervous systems, both needing support, can unintentionally begin to destabilize each other. We're going to talk about the difference between co-regulation and co-dysregulation. How couples can get stuck in patterns where both people feel unseen, unsupported, and exhausted. And most importantly, how to create stability when neither of you feels fully stable. Because this dynamic creates one of the most painful internal conflicts in relationships. Let me ask you something about how much of what you know about intimacy was actually taught to you. Communication, desire, boundaries, power dynamics. Most people are trying to build deeply connected relationships without ever being given the tools to do it. And that's exactly why I created the workshops at Evolve Your Intimacy. Real conversations, real skills, and real transformation, whether you're exploring connection, kink, or communication. And if you can't make it live, you can access them anytime online because better intimacy isn't luck, it's learned. Go to evolveyourintimacy.com and start evolving your intimacy today. I know you're struggling, but also I'm struggling too, and I don't know how to help both of us. So today, we're going to slow this down. We're going to give you clarity, language, and some practical tools so you can stop feeling like you're drowning together and start learning how to actually support each other in a way that creates safety, not more overwhelm. This is a version of the relationship that we don't talk enough about, where both partners are navigating their own mental health challenges at the same time. And for many of the couples that I work with, especially those trying to maintain emotional connection, sexual intimacy, and relational stability, this is the reality. This can look like anxiety paired with depression, ADHD paired with trauma, bipolar paired with substance use, or even both partners experiencing the same condition but expressing it in completely different ways. And that last one is where it gets really confusing because you might both say, we're dealing with anxiety, but one of you needs closeness, seeks reassurance, wants to talk it through, while the other feels overwhelmed, shuts down, needs space. Same diagnosis, completely different nervous system responses. When both partners are struggling, the relationship doesn't just carry the stress. It becomes the place where the stress collides. Because your relationship is not just emotional, it's neurological. It's two nervous systems interacting in real time. So now it's not just, I'm overwhelmed, you're overwhelmed, and we're triggering each other while trying to stay connected. And it shows up everywhere in the relationship, in communication, in conflict, in emotional safety. and especially in intimacy and sex, because when the nervous system doesn't feel safe, desire won't show up. Presence doesn't show up. Connection becomes harder to access. So I want to clearly define what dual mental health challenges mean. Dual mental health challenges means both partners are actively managing psychological or emotional conditions that impact mood, how you feel day to day, behavior, how you respond and act, communication, how you express and interpret, nervous system regulation, how safe or activated your body feels. This isn't we're both stressed. This is one partner struggling to get out of bed while the other partner is anxious and overfunctioning. One partner emotionally flooded while the other one dissociates. One partner craving connection while the other one feels overwhelmed by it. This is not rare. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, nearly 1 in 5 adults in the United States experience a mental health illness each year. But here's what's even more relevant for the relationships. Research shows that patterns often match each other in emotional functioning over time, experience increased distress due to shared stressors like lifestyle and emotional environments, and there's also strong evidence for what we call emotional contagion, which means your nervous system mirrors it. So if one of you are anxious, the other one feels it. If one shuts down, the other reacts to that shutdown. And over time, it creates a loop. You are not the exception. If this is your relationship, you are not too much. You are not too broken. You are not too complicated. You are part of a very rare, very human pattern, especially for couples who are highly sensitive, have trauma histories, care deeply about connection, and are trying to get it right. The core issue is not just two struggles, it's the interaction of those two struggles. This is where most couples get stuck because the problem isn't my anxiety plus your depression. It's how my anxiety reacts to your depression and how your depression responds to my anxiety. That interaction becomes the emotional climate for the relationship. It determines whether conflict escalates or softens, whether intimacy feels safe or pressured, whether connection feels accessible or exhausting. One partner says, I feel like we haven't been close lately. What they mean is, I miss you, I want connection. But the other partner hears, I'm failing, so they shut down. Now, the first partner feels rejected and pushes harder, and now the second partner feels more overwhelmed and withdraws more. And just like that, you're no longer having a conversation, you're in a pattern. And this is where we introduce two critical concepts, because if you don't understand what's happening here, you will keep trying to fix the content of the argument instead of addressing the pattern underneath. And that's where we need to talk about co-regulation versus co-dysregulation, because that distinction is what determines whether two struggling people create stability together or unintentionally pull each other further into distress. The core issue is not just two struggles, it's the interaction of them. Co-regulation versus co-dysregulation. This is the turning point in relationships because most couples think they're arguing about communication, effort, sex, attention, but underneath it all, they're either regulating each other or dysregulating each other. Co-regulation is the goal. Co-regulation is when partners help stabilize each other's nervous systems. When I'm overwhelmed, your presence helps me feel safe again. This is what secure connection feels like in the body. Not perfect communication, not constant agreement, but sense of safety even when things are hard. And what does that look like in real relationships? One partner slows the conversation instead of escalating it. Someone notices tension rising and says, hey, let's pause for a second. Touch that soothes instead of pressures. A hand on the leg, not an expectation for sex. A steady tone instead of a sharp or reactive response. One partner grounding themselves so the other partner doesn't have to carry both emotionally. And importantly, in intimacy, this looks like being able to be physically close without the pressure for it to go somewhere. Feeling emotionally safe enough to stay present in your body. Desire building from connection, not obligation. And research in interpersonal neurobiology shows humans are wired for co-regulation. We don't regulate emotions in isolation. Safe connection can lower cortisol and increase oxytocin. This isn't just emotional, it's biological. Co-dysregulation is when partners unintentionally amplify each other's distress. So when I get overwhelmed, you get overwhelmed, and now we're both drowning. And this is where most struggling couples live without even realizing it. What this looks like is anxiety chasing withdrawal, which increases withdrawal. Emotional flooding met with defensiveness, one partner panicking, the other one shutting down. Irritability feeding irritability. Sexual pleasure met with avoidance, which of course increases the pressure. One partner wanting more intimacy while the other one feels overwhelmed by it. One partner needing reassurance while the other feels like they're failing. Sex becomes loaded with expectation, pressure, or avoidance. One partner says, "Why are you being so distant lately?" And what they mean is, "I miss you. I want to feel close." While the other partner hears, "I'm failing." So they shut down. Now the first partner feels rejected, then pushes harder. Now the second partner feels overwhelmed and withdraws more. Both nervous systems are activated. No one feels safe. And intimacy becomes the last thing either person wants to engage in. Most couples are not failing because they don't love each other. They're stuck in a co-dysregulation loop. They don't understand. And when they don't understand the pattern, they start to personalize it. You don't care. You're too much. We're just not compatible. And over time, those patterns become an identity. This is just how we are. So why is this so hard, and why does it feel so personal? When both partners are struggling, the emotional bandwidth is limited. Patience is thinner. Misinterpretations increase, and repair takes so much longer. Your partner, who is supposed to feel like safety, starts to feel like another source of stress. Not because they don't love you, but because their nervous system is overwhelmed too. You can be deeply in love, deeply committed, and still feel disconnected, unseen, tense around each other. You start walking on eggshells or pulling away, or avoiding intimacy altogether because it feels like it's too much pressure, too much effort, too much risk of getting it wrong. This doesn't mean the relationship is broken. It means the system is overwhelmed, and overwhelmed systems don't need more pressure. They need awareness, slowing down, intentional regulation. Because when you shift from "why are we like this" to "what's happening between our nervous systems," that's when something starts to change. So let's shift this from awareness to action, because insight without tools doesn't change patterns. First, we're going to identify the pattern. We're going to name the loop. You cannot change what you cannot see. So each of you are going to answer, "When I feel triggered, I tend to." "When you react that way, I tend to." And then we're going to combine them. Our pattern looks like I pursue, you withdraw, I escalate, you shut down. Name it, externalize it, because it's not you versus each other. It's both of you versus the pattern. We're going to create a co-regulation agreement before conflict happens. You cannot negotiate safely in the middle of dysregulation. You can create a plan in advance. And so some examples might be, if either of us feels overwhelmed, we can call a pause. The pause is not abandonment, it's protection. We can agree to come back within a set time, 30 to 60 minutes. This is going to prevent escalation, emotional damage, saying things that we can't take back. We are also going to build individual regulation skills, and this is a non-negotiable. Your partner cannot be your only regulation strategy. That creates dependency and eventually resentment. Each partner needs a go-to calming strategy, whether it's breathing, movement, grounding, but awareness of early signs, the ability to say, "I'm getting activated." Healthy co-regulation requires individual regulation first. So we're also going to practice using soft startups in communication. Research from relationship science, the Gottman Institute specifically, shows that conversations that start harshly end poorly 90% of the time. So instead of "you never listen to me," try "I'm feeling disconnected and I want to feel closer to you." The same message, but different nervous system response. We're going to schedule stability. Don't leave it to chance. When both partners struggle, stability must be intentional. And this includes sleep routines, check-in conversations, time for connection that's not problem-focused, because chaos thrives in unstructured places, and stability thrives in predictable ones. We need to redefine support, and this changes everything. Support is not fixing, saving, or absorbing all of your partner's pain. Support is, I care about you deeply, and I am responsible for staying grounded while you navigate your experience. That's the difference between support versus emotional enmeshment, connection versus co-dysregulation. If both of you are struggling, that doesn't mean your relationship is doomed. It means your relationship requires more awareness, more structure, more intentional regulation, because love alone is not enough to stabilize your nervous system. But love paired with skill, that's where relationships start to transform. This week's reset is not about fixing the relationship. It's about learning how to feel safe with each other again, even when both of you are not at your best. The goal is to interrupt co-dysregulation patterns and create a moment where your nervous system experiences, we can be in this together without making it worse. So, your weekly task is you're going to do a 3-part regulation reset. You're going to set aside 20 to 25 minutes. Again, no phone, no distraction, no multitasking. This is not a problem-solving conversation. This is a nervous system reset together. Part 1, we're going to name our internal states. Take turns completing these sentences. Right now, my mind feels. Right now, my body feels. Lately, I've been carrying. No interrupting, no fixing, none of that, just listening. Part 2, we're going to name the pattern. Now we're going to shift from the individual to relational. Together, you're going to answer, when I feel overwhelmed, I tend to. When you respond that way, I tend to, and then you're going to combine it into one sentence. Our pattern looks like I, whatever, and then you respond, and then I respond, and then you. And the example is I pursue, you shut down, I escalate, you withdraw. This is critical because you are not the problem. The pattern is the problem. So let's practice co-regulation. Now we shift from talking to experiencing. I want you to sit closer. You can hold hands. You can sit with your legs touching. One partner leans into the other, but no talking for 2 full minutes, just breathing. And then one partner is going to say, something that helps me feel safe with you is, and the other responds, I hear that. I can do more of that. Then we're going to switch. We're going to keep it simple. No discussions. But here's some important guidelines. If either partner becomes overwhelmed, we're not going to push. We're going to pause. This is not the time to bring up grievances. This is about creating one small moment of safety. And why this works? When both partners are struggling, the relationship often becomes a place of co-dysregulation. This exercise slows your nervous system, builds awareness of patterns, creates a shared experience of safety, and it's going to separate connection from conflict. And most importantly, it teaches your body we don't have to escalate to connect. You are not trying to fix everything this week. You are trying to create a micro experience of stability inside the relationship, because those small moments repeated over time are what shifts from reacting to responding, disconnecting to reconnecting, surviving to actually feeling safe together. At the end, each of you answer one sentence. Right now, I feel blank with you. That's it. No analysis, no pressure, just awareness. If this feels unfamiliar, if this feels slower than you're used to, if part of you wants to skip it or rush it, then you're in the right place. Because this is what it looks like to step out of co-dysregulation and start building something more stable together. When both partners are struggling, it can feel like there's no solid ground, like every conversation has the potential to turn into disconnection. Like every attempt at closeness carries the risk of being wrong. Like every person you want comfort from is also overwhelmed themselves. And this is a painful place to be. But here's the truth, and I want you to hold on to it. 2 struggling people are not a broken relationship. What creates disconnection isn't the presence of struggle. It's the absence of awareness around how those struggles interact. Because when you see the pattern, you begin to recognize the difference between co-dysregulation and co-regulation. Stop asking who's the problem and start asking what's happening between us and how do we shift it together. That's where change begins, not in perfection, not one partner finally getting it right, but in small, intentional moments where you choose to slow down instead of escalate, stay present instead of withdraw, create safety instead of pressure, and over time, those moments will add up. The nervous system softens, the tension decreases, the relationship becomes a place that feels a little less like survival and a little more like connection again. So if this is where you are right now, take the pressure off fixing everything. Focus on creating one moment of safety at a time, because that's how stability is built. Not all at once, but together. Thank you for listening to Evolve Your Intimacy. If this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who is trying to better communicate, love better, and understand the deeper layers of their intimacy. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep evolving your intimacy. If this episode resonated with you, don't just sit with it, use it. Take one piece from today and bring it into your relationship this week, because insight without action doesn't create change. Intentional behavior does. If you want deeper support, tools, and structured guidance, you can explore my workshops and relationship resources at evolveyourintimacy.com. And if this episode helped you feel seen, understood, or gave you the language for something you couldn't quite explain, share it with your partner. Sometimes the most powerful way to start a conversation is not by finding the perfect words, but by pressing play. And if you haven't already, make sure you follow the podcast and leave a review. It helps more people find this work and start changing the way they show up in their relationships. Until next week, stay connected, stay curious, and stay intentional about the way you show up in your most intimate relationships.